What's up, boys? Today we're checking out the Hell Clock demo. This game is basically if Path of Exile was like a speed mapping game entirely. So our first upgrade here, minus mana cost on my main ability, is quite good. Every rank you get on those will also give you some small global buffs. We get life and mana on that, which is actually pretty useful. There's a limited number of slots on each of your abilities, so if you get bad options for some of your utility stuff, you might not want to take those. So we have 2 rare slots for that, and that's a pretty solid one for my main skill. We'll be able to cast it more often. There is a very basic gear system in the game, but this is actually kind of a bait. These just upgrade automatically as you find new versions of them. The real gear system is actually the Relics. There are some very interesting and unique effects here. So my main ability, the Old Bell, gains a huge damage boost based on my maximum mana. Over here we've got a big mana restore on my survivability ability, Closed Body. This gives me a bunch of conviction, which is basically like Ward from Last Epoch. And the relics are also basically like idols from Last Epoch. This causes my bell to spawn a spirit of the Canudos Catholic Guard. I'm not sure exactly what that does. I just found that, but we're going to be trying it out on this run. We've got a bunch of mana restore on my reflexes. This just creates a bunch of knives around me, which will automatically track and hit enemies. So it's kind of a utility damage skill here. And then we have extra movement and melee attack speed. I don't actually use any melee attacks right now. And then I'm not using the unique repeater effect on this. This thing just has a ton of very useful stats for me. Flat mana, and percent cooldown are my best stats by far, and physical resistance is also not bad. So that's basically just a stat stick with very good stats for me. You run around collecting gold and trinkets. Let's see. None of these are super useful. Actually, the crit damage for the bell is not bad for a white. Since you have limited numbers of each of the rarities, you actually do kind of want to focus the very important abilities. But for the knives, I'm mainly just looking for extra knives generated, and maybe cooldown reduction or area if those are things. I think areas, I'm not sure on cooldown reduction, but we're going to take basically all of the damage stats for my main bell ability. And then the trinkets and gold are kind of your roguelite elements of the game. You can get some passive stat boosts and buy some stat boosts at the end of each floor, I think it is. And those will reset at the end of each run. You are on a bit of a timer here, but you also gain some time back when you kill elites, and it's paused during bosses. So you see an epic, and you're like, hey, that looks really good, but actually the duration stat doesn't really do a whole lot on reflexes. I think it still generates the same total number of knives. It just allows you to pre-buff it a bit earlier. So I think I'm actually going to take the dash speed on my dash so we can move around a bit further and faster. Stats like that are pretty useful to get early into the run to save you a lot of time throughout it. I like clearing all these corridors so that you get the maximum stats possible. Some of the enemies towards the end become quite tanky, and I feel like you're going to need all of the stats you can get to help deal with them. So cooldown on the dash is not bad. Area on my survivability thing is okay, but not amazing. It also has a bit of a thorns effect whenever you get hit while it's active. But it's physical damage, and my main ability is Plague/Elemental, so not the best synergy there. I think I'm just going to take the cooldown on the dash, so we can zip around even faster in the early game. So you spend gold at these things, and mana is extremely good for the things I've outlined earlier. Elemental is not bad, but we can definitely take that. So for my current build, we've got a bit of a boss floor, so you can see the timer's paused during this. We just need to survive some waves of enemies. So mana is actually really insane for my build. It increases 2 different damage stats. The damage on the bell itself from the relic I showed earlier, and then bell actually costs a ton of mana, 337 right now. I think the base is like 450 or something, which is actually huge before you have any mana gear. So we can actually cast it a lot more as well. And then there's a little bit of a Path of Exile style skill tree you can see at the start of a run. And when we spend mana for my build, I actually generate a bit of conviction. You can see that going up as I cast my bell a bit. So it also feeds into my survivability a bit on top of that. Conviction gain is not bad for survivability, I can work with that. From what I can tell on the skill tree, you kind of have to build into either conviction or life, and it seems to be kind of hard to generate life in combat. That's damage from my utility thing, not the greatest. Ooh, 40% crit damage for the main ability, that's fantastic. So it seems kind of hard to actually generate life in combat right now, but conviction is much easier due to the huge gains you can get from spending a lot of mana with very expensive skills right now, so I've built heavily into that, and I'm basically a full ward build now. The early levels are going to be quite easy. I've actually been playing this game quite a bit now. It's quite addictive. Elemental damage is decent, but I think early on movement speed is pretty high value as well. And then later on we'll swap into some of the more damage focused stuff once we've got a lot of time. There's only 17 floors and 1 act currently. Okay, max knives is the best in slots for that utility ability. We'll grab that whenever possible. That will combine with the relic to restore my mana on hit, which will allow us to cast more bells, which feeds into both damage and survivability. And then that skill itself will of course do a bit more damage with the extra knives also. You can occasionally find trinkets off of the little breakable urns. My current build isn't the greatest at destroying those, so I don't always go for them. I think I'll grab some elemental damage for the bell here. There is a cyclone skill in the game called, I think, Twin Daggers. That one's very good at breaking the urns as you're moving around. Ooh, we got a loot goblin up here. Cooldown on the dash is not bad. I'd love some cooldown on the survivability thing since it also gives us some mana, but I think we're just gonna absolutely spam the dash around. What bonus does that gain as it levels up? Minus skill mana cost, so it actually gives us minus 15% to that with all the levels we've gotten. And we can spam the bell a lot more, down to a 318 cost on that now. I think the pickup range on the trinkets could be a little bit higher since those can pretty easily get left behind. I could also add a bit of that to like the passive tree or gear or something like that to help remedy that as you scale up a bit, I feel like. Kind of have to sit around on the chest and wait for all the loot to come out. Conviction gain is pretty good survivability, but also damage of area skills is fantastic. And you're not really in a rush to spend gold. I feel like there's enough of these that you can basically always spend as much as you want to. Then I think this guy always drops a unique relic. Yeah, in slow times area of effect you gain percentage of max mana as conviction. That's not bad. Shadow Dash has no cooldown and no mana cost but drains life. That actually could work here. Peter deals 16% damage to slowed enemies. Split Shot pierces all enemies but deals 60% less for each enemy pierced. I might try that one at some point. I don't think you can equip these during the run. Area of effect for the survivability. I think we're just going to take the common damage for my main skill here. And getting the passive mana on the levels for that is also fantastic as well. So we're on to a new biome, and the enemies scale up quite a bit here, but I think I am still very strong for a few more levels at least. I've basically maxed out the demo because it's really fun and addictive. They're eventually going to be adding an Act 2 and Act 3, I think, with a lot more floors and also new skills to unlock and all. But I don't think that's planned for the demo. Ooh, 2 max knives. That is best in slots for our reflexes. That's going to be a lot of mana generated on that skill. You can also destroy those little cocoons, and I think those are basically just the urns of this biome. For a little bit of gold and trinket every once in a while. Skill area of effect, that's pretty fun. That's more damage, but you know me, I like the fun. So now we got big bells. We got all the bells and whistles for this run, it seems like. Shrine of Learning, I believe that's extra XP on kill for a bit. Can I look at that? 30 seconds, 200% XP, wow. Okay, so you kind of do want to try and maximize that then. I think probably just dash speed on the dash thing. That'll pair decently with the cooldown reduction for it, at least to zoom around. Those burrower guys are basically devourers, and when you can't one-shot them anymore, they'll start tunneling under the ground, which can be pretty annoying. 50% retaliation damage, it's not that good. I think it's fine though. If I was very concerned about pushing super deep into a run, then I would take the conviction gain for more survivability. But I think this is fine because I am pretty strong right now. That'll help us kill bosses a little bit faster when I try to face tank them. I think I'm fine with the attack speed here. It's not the greatest stat, but if we run out of mana, then I can start firing my basic attack to generate some mana back. And then we've got a boss wave here. We'll have to fight through a few waves, and then it should spawn a boss at the end of it. Oh, if you're familiar with the game already, they pushed back the release date to, I think, sometime in the middle of July, because they don't want to try and compete with the new Path of Exile League. However, they've updated the demo. Big area of effect on the dash, that's not the most useful here. I guess we can toss a redraw on these. I don't really like doing that because you can always spend the gold, but a nice damage for my main attack actually made that worth it. But the current demo progress will actually carry over to the full release, so you can actually start grinding and carry everything over now. Start getting all of those cool relics out and some of the skill tree unlocked. There's also an option when you first create your save, you can actually turn the timer mode completely off if you're a casual dad or something. I decided to just play the game out as they intended. We can go, I think, dash speed. Make sure we grab those trinkets. Ooh, that would have been cool if we could do that. I don't think we really need movement speed now, and I don't really need life for the conviction builds. Honestly, I think I'm fine just passing here and then looking for some cool stuff later on, and saving the maximum gold possible. We still have a few floors to go, 5 actually. Man, we get a lot of those little spirits out. That actually seems pretty solid. Curious how the single target damage will be on the final boss. Damage on the dash, that's not really great for me. Critical damage on the main attack and area on the utility are both solid. I think I'm just gonna go there. The map is the same every time, so if you've explored the levels before, then you'll know exactly where to go. I think I would like to see a mode where there's like randomly generated maps. Man, if we could get that, that would have been cool. I think we'll pass again and just wait for some better stuff. I think we're kind of past the point of needing movement speed, and I also have so many dash upgrades that it's not quite as important as normal. I don't think any of these are very good. Kind of not the best stats for us. Area of effect on that, oh, area on that's decent. Makes it a lot easier to keep up the various buffs and mana restores on that ability on boss fights. The boss fights tend to be pretty melee unfriendly, I've found. They have lots of persistent damage areas around themselves that they sometimes just sit in and make it hard to hit them with. And they also have some bullet hell attacks that can be pretty dangerous if you're close to them. I think I'm fine with some big attack speed. Then here's our next boss. He goes underground a lot, and then he has a bullet hell attack, and then he also creates some damage zones all around the place. I think we stunned him because my damage and attack speed are becoming so high now. Peter deals damage to slowed enemies. This is the Cyclone skill, so that's a very cool mod for it. I do have one of those, I think. Increases all damage by 20%. I think I have one of each of these already, so I'm going to fish for some better stats on that, since I do want to try a Cyclone build at some point. Area on the dash. I guess the retaliation or a duration isn't bad, since we got that big damage boost to it early on, so we can try that. Now we're on to the final few stages. You can see the elites on the minimap as the little red dots if you want to go out of your way to hunt them down. I've just been full clearing everything so far since you get a lot of extra stats for it anyways. I guess some more retaliation damage on that's fine. We can try to face tank the boss and see how much Thorns damage I can do to him with that. I think I probably have enough conviction generation to pull that off now. Attack speed, but minus base damage. Those would have been cool. We don't really need to take any of these, and 4% for 600 is fairly low. We can save up a bit more and maybe go for a decent rare later on. Rare mana would still be huge, since I don't think we've seen any of those yet. Oh, there's a chest over there. Try and group all of the blues up so we can bell them down. I have never seen that before. Huh. Just a random elite caster guy there. Interesting. Well, I guess we can get the decay resistance to build up more conviction, and then that will help with face tanking him, so we can try to maximize the Thorns damage. So we have to fight some waves here, and then we'll be on the final boss. Man, that spirit legendary relic I got actually goes pretty hard. Oh yeah, I guess we'll want to look for something good here. Mana cost on that solid. Yeah, I think that's the best out of these. I can't move from something over there. So this is the final boss. You want to dodge that bullet hell attack if all of them hit you at the same time. It's a lot of damage, and they have some slight homing on some of the projectiles here as well. If he lives long enough, he actually... Oh yeah, I did want to try face tanking for the thorn stuff. If he lives long enough, he will summon some adds, but I think my damage is high enough that probably won't happen now. You actually can take damage from boss abilities after the fight is over. I haven't actually died to it, but it seems like it could happen, so be a bit careful about that. So this is the skill tree progress. I can show that in a second. Here's all of your main meta progression loot, the relics and all. 20% plague resistance. 4% physical resistance. It's fine because it's such a small relic. Mana on kill and mana regen. That's actually not bad. Interesting. Those ones typically aren't great. That seems pretty weak. Ignite combined with bleeding status. The loading screens are a bit slow right now, but that's one of the only negative things I have to say about the game. Honestly, like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 for me so far. Really impressed with the demo, and I am looking forward to this coming out. So after every run, you can earn a bit of progress towards this. The super important stuff is that you get the extra relic slots and the extra blessings offered. Those are pretty large power boosts, and then maximum skill level can help a bit, but it also comes with a bit of a downside. I'll show that in a second. And then the important thing for my build here is that a percentage of my mana spent is converted into conviction, so that gives me a lot of survivability. You could probably just go ahead and max that out with the 2 extra points I have here. So once you increase your maximum level, you can sort of freely modify these a bit. The stats that change are different on a skill by skill basis. This one looks to gain just extra damage, even though it's mainly a survivability ability. This is my utility skill, and I think the cooldown actually increases, so increasing the level of that is actually detrimental to me since I'm not really using it for damage, just mana and movement speed. But my main skill, it actually goes up a lot in mana, but that's fine since we're kind of converting that into survivability as well, and we're focusing mana so much, but the damage goes up a ton. So it's kind of on a skill by skill basis whether or not you want to improve the levels on those. And then when Act 2 and 3 come out, there's going to be a lot more skills and probably a lot more relics to customize those. So there's a lot of different stuff in here. You can gain conviction on kill, and then marksman skills drain a portion of that to deal a bunch of bonus damage. Hitting with Shadow Dash increases mana. That would be kind of cool, but kind of hard to fit in with my limited relic slots currently. Repeater deals extra damage to slowed enemies. Repeater is converted to fire and has a high chance of creating grenades. Pretty cool. Inside slowed time, you gain the maximum mana as conviction. We saw that already. Shadow Dash causes bleed to be applied immediately. Double Knives adds base bleeding on critical hits. And Double Knives doesn't slow you down. Double Knives is the Cyclone skill, so that's also pretty fun. And just being able to constantly use that without slowing down would be really fun. But yeah, that's the Hell Clock demo. Looking forward to the full release. But that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.